Hello, and welcome back to the Parents Awareness Program, PAP. My name is Paul. I'm doing another topic on the ongoing crime and violence issue in Baltimore. And as I have already mentioned in my previous podcasts, this does not mean that I'm singling out Baltimore. Baltimore is only the poster city. I hear a rather interesting and surprising speech from a Baltimore pastor with regards to the ongoing crime and violence plaguing the city. When I saw the story headline that a pastor had spoken with regards to the problem, I tuned in with high expectation and much enthusiasm that a pastor would point in the right direction on the parents and set the record straight that they are the ones responsible to discipline and protect their own children. This is desperately needed to be said, and who would be more fitting to call out to the parents than a pastor? Instead, I was even more disappointed to hear a pastor, a man whom I expect to know what the scriptures clearly say about parents' responsibilities to their children, say, and I quote, "Total culpability is on the legislature because they could do something, they have their authority, they just won't. Our governor could call a special session, he has the authority, he just won't. There will be no accountability until the mayor and other legislators exercise the authority that they have to curb that behavior. Maybe not change it, but curb it." End quote. I think that behavior that this pastor is referring to is the behavior of the children. Anyway, he continued to say, and again I quote, "There is blood on their hands, that is the legislators, governors, and mayor's hands, whether the young person dies or a young person injures and kills somebody else." End quote. It is very shocking to me to hear a pastor pointing away from who should be the real target, the parents. They are the ones with the special authority to do something about their children's behavior. They just won't. This pastor's statements have clearly demonstrated that he believes wholeheartedly that the governor and other lawmakers are responsible for the crime and violence problems amongst juveniles. His statements, however, should not really surprise me the least, because I've long realized that some individuals in leadership, including many church leaders these days, truly do not fully understand certain fundamental principles of life. Why? Because they themselves share the belief of the individuals who need correction. So many are in no better position mentally than the parents who are passing on the blame to the elected leaders. I place a pastor or a church leader in leadership position because he's leader based on biblical principles and has the moral responsibility to teach scriptural principles which are fundamental to a disciplined society. These statements made by this pastor clearly say to me how far many of our spiritual leaders have strayed from the standard home moral and fundamental principles and values of parenting according to what the scriptures say about parenting. The funny thing is, I've tried and I've yet to find one scripture that would direct me to our elected leaders as the ones who are responsible for disciplining, overall providing and caring for our children. Furthermore, I've yet to find scriptures that hold the elected leaders accountable for their failure to take care and discipline our children. Ironically, I'm able to easily find scripture after scripture holding parents accountable when they fail to take care of their children, and telling parents of the results or consequences when they fail to properly discipline their children. For example, in Ephesians 6 verse 4, it says, that parents should bring up their children with the discipline and instructions that come from the Lord. Another significant scripture is Proverbs. A child left to him or herself brings shame to his or her mother. 1 Timothy 5 verse 8 says, "But if any provide not for his own, and specifically for those of his own house, he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel." These are only a few of the several scriptures directed to parents, not elected leaders, to provide and care for their children and discipline their children. The time and opportunity that this pastor used to call out the elected leaders were an appropriate time and a great opportunity to say to the parents what their responsibilities are to their children according to the scriptures. I knew a time when parents were scripturally well aware of what was expected of them, because those pastors understood that they had to teach parents the biblical principles of raising their children. Likewise, the children were taught the scriptural principles of being obedient to parents and the outside authorities. Growing up, it was the norm for children to go to Saturday, Sabbath, or Sunday school to learn what the Lord expected of us. I have no doubt in my mind that one of the major reasons why there is so much indiscipline, crime and violence in the society these days is due to the lack of scriptural knowledge. The types of indiscipline and some of the crime and violence seen these days clearly demonstrate that there is not much knowledge and understanding on what is expected of us as parents and as children. Growing up, for example, crime and violence against the elderly, crime and violence committed in the places of worship and schools were never a thing. And I believe it was partly because children were taught scriptural principles, and as children we were fearful of violating those principles. Proverbs 9 verse 10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." These days parents rely on their own understanding and man's perception and what is trending, for example, on social media to raise their children. The good old biblical scriptures are a thing of the past, and parents have become afraid to follow them in raising their own children. Our parents had wisdom in raising us because they listened to the word of the Lord. James 3 verse 17 says, "But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy." Just to highlight a few of the many scriptures that speak pertaining to wisdom, pure knowledge and understanding, which only comes from the Lord. Moreover, church leaders back then certainly played a significant role in family life by teaching the scriptures, which I have no doubt resulting in a more disciplined society. Church leaders need to continue focusing on that, as their role is valuable in helping to shape a better society. However, I find that many pastors, church leaders, that is, these days, want to be involved in the political makings of rules and laws rather than being separate as a church from the state. They don't want to stay away from political affairs and focus on their affairs as scriptural leaders, which is simply to humbly and lovingly teach the scriptures. When they get the opportunity to relay what the scriptures teach, they should make good of the opportunity. As in this case, with regards to parenting, this pastor had what I believe was a golden missed opportunity to relay what the scriptures say about parents disciplining their children and children obeying their parents, and to call upon missing fathers to care for their own children. This can absolutely be done without forcing religious beliefs on parents and their children. However, nowadays many church leaders seem no longer interested in delivering the messages based on true biblical principles. Many of the pastors nowadays seem to be more interested in political so-called truth than biblical truths. In other words, being politically correct than being scripturally correct. Hearing those words spoken by this pastor tells me that the juvenile crime situation will never get better, because the people who are expected to know better do not know better. So, who is there to teach better? No one. It's like the lost directing the lost, and the plain truth is, many of these leaders are themselves lost. Unfortunately to say, but as bad as the situation is right now, with the juvenile crime problem, it is only expected to get worse. Just imagine when all the older ones have passed, who know that parents must be the ones in charge of their children, and that they should not be left to roam without proper discipline, control, guidance, and protection from their parents. It is very clear that many parents are increasingly failing to do their duties, what only they can do, and so long as the system continues to uphold the belief that it's a substitute for parents, then the juvenile crime situation will only continue to be what it is, especially in the long summer months when the children are off from schools. I often think it's bad now, but just wait until the system raised. The no accountability parents and grandparents, that is, parents and grandparents who are raised with the belief that the system, the elected leaders, are the ones responsible for their children's bad behaviors, are in full effect. That is it for this episode. I will be doing more topics on parenting, so please subscribe to this channel by clicking the red subscribe button below. Also, it would be nice to hear your thoughts on this topic, so please leave a comment. Your inputs are valuable. If this message spoke to you, please hit the like button. It is free to do so. It would also be much appreciated if you share this valuable content with a friend or family member. Thank you for listening. Until next time, parents, make the correct changes.